Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Scoop, your go-to resource to cut through all the noise surrounding the transfer window and Juventus. My name is Zach, and of course, I am joined by Frederic, from whom we get our inside information. Frederic, are you any better, or are you still sick with the plague?
No. The plague's gone. I'm feeling a lot better. I think it's
Nice, nice.
visually also a bit more apparent that I'm feeling a bit better today. So yeah, excited. Just in the nick of time because I really thought that this was going to be my last transfer market window, so to speak.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, as Colo99 says in the chat. Give us the news, Frederic, and that's why we're here today. Before we jump into that, we've got a lot going on here at Turn Giants, okay? First and foremost, yesterday, we had the debut of a new show under the Turn Giants umbrella called After Hours. Farhad brought in our old friend Rav with a special guest, Marco Messina, and did a pretty long, hour and 10-minute long interview with him. Go check it out on our YouTube page, Turn Giants Official. We're obviously doing the scoop today. We're releasing a new black and white. It's black and white from our debate series tomorrow. We've got our post-game Saturday. We got midweek Champions League post-game. Then Frederic, you, me, Kevin, and Beppe will be together in Turin for the Napoli game. So everyone watching, it is a happening place here at Turn Giants. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Those numbers keep going up after every episode, which is really affirming to all the hard work we put in. And we, of course, appreciate all of you. And I do believe there's one last scoop-related surprise coming, Frederic. No, it is not this scoop mug that I'm holding that you probably can't see very well. There it is, which I am enjoying today. But no, it's a piece of clothing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's our own. Yeah, I think we're taking the market by storm now. I think we can be very confident. It's an amazing piece of art, limited, very very high sought after. And we're not going to do the reveal today, are we? No, we're not.
No. Though Farhad, I do see him in the chat, needs to make sure he's standing very close to his front door, because at any moment, speaking of Colo99, the Dan Colosimo designed scoop shirts. There we go. We'll just say it. We'll be hitting the market at turngiants.com. There have been some really awesome product releases that we've done there. The Predator shirts, the Deli Alpi shirts. Well, the scoop shirts will be on there as well in the next hours, maybe, if the next day or two. So that's, I think, all the housekeeping. A lot of exciting things. We appreciate everyone in chat: Mohammed, Azaru, Yorio, Alex, DR1S, Ivan, and everybody else watching, for your continued support of us. But let's get to talk some transfers. That's what everyone's here about. And I know, Frederic, you're in between the plague. You are manning the phones like crazy. So what do we have on our docket today? Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we've got 7 names, 5 potential additions, 4 of whom we've spoken to pretty recently, and then 2 potential departures, both of whom we've spoken about. So this is sort of a refinement session on a lot of information that we've provided you recently, especially during our end of December episodes. But we're going to start with the news that has been circulating throughout the social media sphere around Juventus, the addition or potential addition of Oscar Mingueza. Where do we stand? Is it as certain as the news outlets make it seem, Frederic?
It is certain to a certain extent. Let's just say chances of him becoming a Juventus player are 95%, to speak in percentages. Whether it'll be in January or in June, that's a whole other debate. And I'm going to break this down for you guys. Mingueza has given his full availability to join Juve. It's his number 1 priority at this point. But Celta are not keen on losing him. and Celta have a big choice to make now. They can really get something out of Juventus still, but will be forced to split that in half with Barcelona because Barcelona owns 50% of the yeah. It's a how do you call it, a buy clause, something like that. That if another teams buy and that they need to give
Mhm.
half to Barcelona.
It's a sell on. It's a sell on clause.
Yeah,
Like
a
we have
selling clause. Yeah,
with Muharamovic.
yeah,
Same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. True. But there's been some discussion because it seemed that Juventus were very close where when a 5 million euro bid was seemingly accepted, but that's not the case because Celta came back and said, well, if you want him now, you'll just have to pay his release clause worth 20 million, which is not going to happen. If you know Comoli and everybody else, then you know that that's not something that we're going to see happen anytime soon. But it's also part of the negotiation. It's
Yeah.
a process, and because of the fact that Celta has to fork over 50% to Barcelona, they're trying to play hardball and get as many euros out of it as they can. Um, so we'll see where it lands. If it were not for uh, Celta's attitude in the last couple of hours, then Mingueza would have been a done deal already. But I expect something to happen soon because, contrary to popular belief, Ottolini is still in Spain. That means negotiations are still running. He's still working out a few things. So if if my personal opinion were of any relevance here, then I think that this could be closed within the coming days if Salta leverage a bit and we meet each other middle way.
Let me give you a math quiz, Frederic. What is
No,
50% of zero? And so as much as Celta Vigo want, they want to maximize what they can make because they're forking over half of it. I think at the end of the day, they'll take something over nothing. And while
yeah,
and you said 95%. Well, we don't deal with percents here on the scoop for those new to
no,
the program. What we do is we use a temperature scale. We know things can change so quick during a transfer market. And so using numbers is oftentimes misleading because you could be really likely one day, really unlikely the next, as we're going to talk on some of the players on this list of how it's flip-flopped. So from a temperature standpoint, based on the information you're getting from your inside contacts, where are we with Mingueza?
I'd say red hot. We're in constant negotiation. We have the availability of the player. We have everything in order, and maybe it's just me, but the feeling is, should we not be able to sign him now, which I highly doubt, because he is a real target, then he'll certainly be with us in June for an even lower fee. So it's just a matter of time, and that's up to Ottolini and Comoli to decide when the timing will be right.
Uh, Argon Fit in the chat. Hi from Italy, he says, but he also wants to talk about Maldini. I'll just tell everyone, if you are new to the scoop, we go question by question, player by player after we get through sort of our list of names. So please, if there's a question you have or a specific a player or something of the sort with regards to transfers that you have for Frederic, I will go back through the chat after we get through this list, and we will go through one by one and see what insights or information Frederic he's received on those players from his contacts. Cool. Well, we haven't even got to Chiesa, name number 2 on our list yet, but he's already making waves in the chat. He is a player since being linked with Juventus that people are very split on. Last
Yeah.
time we spoke, and I think this was mirrored on Bepe's episode. It seemed pretty likely. I mean, everyone was talking about, oh, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and there was one voice, a bald voice of reason, Mr. Frederic, that said it's not as close as you think it is.
No.
Well, Frederic, where do we stand now on Federico Chiesa?
Well, there are two things that are helping his departure in any sense. I'm not saying that he will eventually go to Juventus, but he had a bit of and it's been all around social media about a tussle with Slot during a substitution. in the last game. Chiesa thought that he was called to the sidelines to get some guidance or tips, but he was just called to being subbed, and he left the pitch with a very sarcastic smile. So that's one thing. I think it's safe to say that his days are numbered, especially since Mo Salah is returning from the African Cup of Nations, because Egypt lost, I think, in the semifinals. So this will be the alternative slot is waiting for, which could push Chiesa out the door very soon. And Chiesa already stated that he wouldn't mind cutting his salary, or cutting into his salary in order to leave Liverpool and join Juventus. There's still one thing standing in the way of the potential transfer, and that's Liverpool's availability in terms of the formula. Juventus want a loan with an option, but Liverpool are pushing for a loan with not an option, but an obligation. An obligation worth 50 million euros, more or less. And Juventus is pretty much hesitant on that. It depends on Liverpool's standpoint at this time, but for all parties involved except Liverpool, it's a done deal. So I think we're going to see something happen in the final week of the transfer market. I don't think this is going to be resolved next week.
So as we look at the likelihood that he joins Juventus, what temperature are you applying today?
Today I'd put him at warm, because some things have changed a bit, but it's a situation we need to monitor. Let's also not forget that he's somebody who was named specifically by Spalletti in order to reinforce the squad, because Spalletti feels that he cannot count on Conceição or Grova in terms of fitness, which is understandable.
Reasonable considering the circumstances.
We need somebody there. There's been a lot of talk also about the forward, the winger from Nice. I think his name is Jeremy Boga, also played at Sassuolo, I think.
Sassuolo, yeah.
Yeah. But I haven't gotten any confirmation about those rumors. So
which is why he's not on our list. Yeah.
No. But I felt that I was obliged to mention it.
Yeah.
But
Boga is like a lot of guys out there where he's an absolute fantastic dribbler. He'll take people on one-on-one. He'll cause chaos for defense, and he has absolutely no end product from what I remember. We'll see. Certainly, if that one comes up as the end of the month approaches. But for our trip to Turin, right, Frederic, we will be keeping people updated as best as possible.
Yes, we will.
All right, so let's move from Chiesa to Marco Senesi, another player like Mingueza, whose contract is expiring at the end of the year. Juventus started talking with his camp very early. Where do we stand on him? And as to, I guess, the next 5 players, himself included, Frederic, let's specify whether we're talking winter or summer.
We absolutely tried to get Senesi in for the winter already. We did everything we could in accordance with our financial guidelines, the things that we can do. We even suggested some loan things that were, in the making or proposed to Bournemouth, but a hard no was met for January. But however, Senesi has let Juventus management know that we are his number one pick for this moment. It's all but a done deal for June, and that's why I put him at. I think I put him at warm.
At hot.
At hot, yes. Yeah, because I think that Senesi will be a Juventus player if he keeps his word. Now, if Chelsea comes strolling by and offers him double, then it's another situation, of course. But for now, for all the clubs that are pursuing him, we're the ones that charmed him the most, so to speak, or he has the most interest in our project. And he really wants to move to Italy as well. He really wants to play in Serie A. I think this is something that we can expect to develop very soon. I wouldn't be surprised if we come out with the news or the official news that he will become a Juventus player on July 1st,
Hmm.
because he can
Or maybe
sign,
even
and as
before, maybe
people
even
know.
before. Yeah, maybe even
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because people, I don't know if people are aware, but if you reach the end months of your contract, if your contract expires in June, then you can legally sign in from February 1st for another team.
Hmm.
And that's what Juventus is trying to do, because I saw a lot of comments from people, why are you talking about the summer this much? And yada, yada. It's all a strategy. We want to just, plan ahead and, grab the opportunities that lie in front of us without wasting too much time, which I
It's
feel.
not. Yeah, I think we want to. I want to just kind of lean into that because with Junsuli, I mean, those transfers like Coops, they took forever, and despite being linked with Coop and talking with him as early as January, February earlier that year, getting in free transfers as opposed to the sort of the youth push, which I liked. I liked the youth push that we had, but bringing in free transfers of people who are roughly 28 years old um, is I think a change in strategy and an efficient change in a cost-effective and efficient change in strategy that we've seen
Yeah.
from Kamoli, right, Frederick?
Yeah, yeah. And what people tend to forget, free transfer, or negotiating with free transfer as players is much more difficult. You'd assume that it wasn't, but it's a lot more difficult. Why? Because usually they have a significant amount of offers on the table already, meaning that you'll have to compete salary wise. Whereas if you decide to negotiate with the team first and you meet the requirements of the team, then you already have this, level that you've overcome already in order to talk to the player. So it's very difficult to negotiate, because I know Senesi has a lot of offers on the table. As does a huge number of players that will leave transfer free. We'll
Mhm.
get into that right away with Bernardo Silva on the list. So yeah, it's difficult, but I'm very confident I'll join Juventus, and I'm hoping for it because he's one of my favorite defenders.
Well, let's get to the next name, Bernardo Silva. We've talked about him since what, June, give or take.
Yeah,
Juve courting him to join us after his contract expires or after he leaves City, which most people are anticipating will happen this summer. Where do we stand on him, and what temperature do you provide?
we, according to my source, had a meeting with his camp on Monday, I believe. And we tried a cheeky push for January already, but that's not going to happen as I predicted. But Bernardo Silva's camp is very intrigued by Juventus. He has a lot of offers on the table, especially from Saudi Arabia and the MLS, where he can earn a lot more. And by a lot, I actually mean a lot, like even double or triple what we're offering, or any other team in Europe for that matter. But he's not interested in moving so far away. He wants somewhere where he can stay with his family. He wants that peace of quiet in the southern part of Europe, Italy, Spain, probably. And he's very intrigued by Juventus. And this was the first time, I think, that we spoke to him directly, or at least directly to his personal manager. So things are moving along. I'm not sure as to how it will unfold and what offers he'll get in, but that's why I put him on warm, because we're still in contact, we're still negotiating, we're still entertaining the idea, and he didn't shoot us out of the water yet. So let's see how that unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, if he straight out rejected us, that'd be here. I think what he's waiting to see what offers he gets from other folks. But at the same time, I think at least for Juventus, we know that we're salary limited based on the new structure that Kamoli wants to put in place, as well as our just financial limitations. So if he isn't going to shoot us down just yet, I think he's waiting to see not only what offers he gets, but where do we finish within Serie A. If we're not in Champions League, he's not joining as far as I'm concerned. I think the project has to be right for him, and a Juve not in the Europe's top competition is probably not going to be enough.
Nope.
All right, let's talk about the last potential addition on our list, one that we had put on our scoop of the day on Instagram. If you don't follow us at Turn Giants, or Frederic directly at the Scoop Juve on Instagram, please do so. A lot of fun, funny content, informational, historical, and transfer. So we had posted that keep an eye on Thiago Almada as a vice Yildiz as opposed to, or as an alternative to Chiesa. This is a player that just joined Atletico, right? He doesn't seem to have settled in very well, but his contract runs to like 2030, if I'm not mistaken. What's the real deal behind any potential move for him, and what temperature would you give the potential for his arrival?
I'll start with the potential and the temperature. For me, that's warm. Why is it warm? Because Almada already expressed his desire to leave Atletico and join Juventus. So we have that agreement in place. We were also getting along quite fairly with the negotiations with Atletico, up until the fact that Atletico wanted in return some sort of discount for the potential Nico Gonzalez transfer, to which Juventus said no, because Juventus need those finances just for the books. It doesn't matter if the value is inherited by a player in a lump sum or financially, but they need that transfer fee. So Juventus shut that idea down straight away. And then it went a bit quiet because Ottolini's now focusing on Mingueza. But the fact that he's still in Spain and still in contact with Atletico gives me hope, in the sense that, for me, Almada is plan B for Chiesa. So I feel personally that should the Chiesa transfer not happen, because Juventus is getting a bit tired of Liverpool's push and pull game. And should they, reach break point and say, okay, we've had enough, then I'm pretty sure they'll circle around Almada and try to get that deal done. So I think in that sense, the Chiesa and Almada transfer is linked, but they don't rule out one another, in the sense that should Chiesa join on a dry loan, which is everything we're hoping for, that doesn't rule out an Almada definitive transfer in the summer. So even though they don't play the same positions exactly, I think that Almada is more suited in a vice Yildiz role, whereas Chiesa, for me, is more somebody who can play in the position of Jehovah Conceição.
And certainly that's the position that he played historically the most at Fiorentina, right? Is that right winger, head down, traditional winger type position. They both play those attacking midfielder roles out wide, and Almada can also drift centrally. Different type of player. Was a lot of appearances in the MLS, which is my familiarity of him. Obviously different level of competition, but he was very good. Struggling to acclimate to Atletico. So I'd be curious to see if he could find comfort and acclimate to Juventus. But that is one to watch, and we'll keep you up to date on that.
Yeah. I also feel that, and this is just my personal opinion, I think that a lot of vice Yildiz or right or left wingers in the summer will depend on the type of midfielder that we sign in the summer, because we will sign a midfielder in the summer, make no mistake. If it's somebody like Bernardo Silva, who's very attacking oriented, then you could, pull out a safeguard and say, okay, we don't need a vice Yildiz yet. If worse comes to worse, we can put Bernardo Silva there, because he's completely capable of doing that. Not the way Yildiz does, but he's the player that can hold that position. And then you switch focus more to a right winger. So heavily interlinked, those transfers, but I feel very good in the sense that we're preparing for summer already, because January is a very difficult transfer market, as we all know.
Yeah. And there's other midfielders on our name whose names have appeared on our show, like Ruben Neves and other folks, that as that materialize, whether it be for winter or more likely for summer, we'll keep you up to date as well.
Yes.
Let's pivot a little bit to potential outgoing folks. And I'll take this time to say, for the folks watching, if there's a player you have a question on, or like us to spend a moment on, or to just see what information Frederic has received from his contact Don, please put it in the chat. I will be going back down the list to address all of your questions after these next two names. All right. I believe you were the first one who reported EPL interest for Coop. The day after you said it, Beppe said it, and the day after Beppe said it, it was on all the Twitter accounts. But we haven't really heard after that brief little blip. We haven't heard anything since. What is the likelihood that we see, at least in the immediacy, so January, Coop leave?
Um, I'd go as far as saying almost non-existent. That would be ice cold, but I'll leave it at cold for the moment, because if a shock offer comes in, then it's another thing. But Koop Meiners has made it very clear towards Juventus management that he does not want to leave. Also stated that to his agent, that his agent doesn't need to entertain any offers. He doesn't want to communicate with other teams unless it's a really big opportunity. Whether that be financial or in terms of accomplishments as big teams go, I don't know. But he made it very clear that he still wants to, get his chances at Juve and prove that he's not the flop of the century. And Juve has their hands tied, so to speak, because you need to you need to be with two in order to conclude a marriage. And if he doesn't want to leave, then there's very little Juventus can do.
Yeah. That's just the curious case of Coop. There will be novels, plays, books, and movies written about it, but not today, because we've got one more name on the list. The saga of Weston McKennie seemed to continue with the retention of Igor Tudor, who at the beginning of this year saw very little reason to play Weston McKennie. Once again, a season begins, and once again, our American friend is outside looking in. The appointment of Spalletti not only gave Weston McKennie game time, but he has repaid it in kind with production in terms of goals and assists, to the point where there were reports that Spalletti told management to re-sign Weston McKennie. You had reported that there was some surface level contacts over the summer. Weston's camp said big number. Juve said no and left it at that. Has anything changed now? What truth are there to these rumors that Spalletti's saying sign him? What movements being done by management with regards to McKennie's camp? Give us the inside information on this one, a player that, at least based on recent performances, many Juventini are asking to stay.
They, and with they, I mean Spalletti and the whole of management, really want him to stay. And they're working on finding a sort of middle ground between what Juventus have offered, what McKennie is asking. So the negotiations will be rekindled. There's just one thing that really annoys Juventus, is that McKennie has offers from other teams, but he's not been very vocal about it. And I want to paint this picture for a lot of people. Usually when you're a professional footballer and you reach the end of your contract, you get offers in. And if your club wants to renew your contract or wants to upgrade your contract, give you a better one, they ask you to be transparent. And they just ask you, like, do you want to leave regardless of the financial things, or do you want to stay? That's your starting point. If you then say, well, I would love to stay, then you have to follow up on that and say, but I have this offer from Bayern Munich. I'm just naming a name. This is not related to McKennie, by the way, worth X amount of money. You bounce the ball back to your current club and they see what they can do. McKennie is not being very vocal about it. Neither is his management. But there are some very good offers for McKennie on the table, which would also explain his current form. I think it's very apparent that he's playing for a contract. He's trying to show everybody what he's capable of. And Juventus are willing to go deep, but not McKennie deep, not 6.5 million net a year deep. But they are willing to talk. They're willing to sit around the table. So now it's just the case of Juventus and him finding middle ground and settling on that. Uh, I know for a fact that Spalletti speaks a lot with McKennie separately, makes him feel appreciated, and for McKennie, this is of vital importance. I also think that McKennie is waiting on the contract renewal of Spalletti in order to see where he goes, because McKennie, rightfully so, has had enough of being sent from, starting 11 to training with next gen to, play right back for a half if you like. It makes no sense. We haven't treated him fairly, it must be said. Not by Giuntoli, not by Tudor, not by Motta even. So now he wants to make sure that he makes the right choice financially and sportingly. So, but there is still hope. Let's put it that way. That's why I put him leaving at gold for the moment, because Juventus is trying to their utmost to not only please McKennie but also Spalletti, in the sense that he's of vital importance to him.
Why don't, for the folks participating in chat, and we've got several of you right now, why don't you put whether money aside, whether you'd want McKennie to stay or you think it's time to part ways at the end of the season, just to kind of gauge what y'all feel about the player. But that brings our sort of core program to its conclusion. We'll be looking to do one of these in the next couple of days. And for those who regularly watch our post games and other such our joint programs with Beppe, we sprinkle in scoop news in those as well. So if you like this type of program, obviously stay tuned to further and future iterations of the scoop, but also tune into our other episodes where we sprinkle in that information, certainly the more timely information at that particular moment, and we'll keep you abreast of that information. Alrighty, let's go back. There's a few questions from folks. We got through this at a pretty good pace, so we'll take some time to see what folks are saying and what people who they're asking about in chat, and we'll get to see what people said about McKennie. Scrolling back up, we see, of course, Farhad, again, the host of the new interview After Hours series from Turin Giants, with the debut episode with Marco Messina, in here asking about Berardi. Frederic, is the dream happening?
The dream is not happening. I think we did everything we could and we can, but it's just a marriage that's not meant to be. And I would like to thank the Almighty above me for that, because Berardi has been the stuff of nightmares for me over the last years, and you can't imagine how many times I had to put his name in a text message over the last couple of years, that I'm so over it by now, you can't even imagine. So, alas, we will not sign Berardi.
We were informed that Inter has defeated Lecce. So today and tomorrow are the game in hands for the, I believe, the Supercoppa teams. Napoli drew their game against Parma earlier today, which means that both on 20 games, they're only 1 point ahead of us, making the game that we'll be at together, Frederic, all the more important. Yep. Inter has won theirs. Alex says, forget Chiesa to Juventus. Why not get Salah to Juventus? You made a face, Frederic. What was that face for?
Because that was something my source texted me as well. Might as well take Salah or Carrasco for that matter. My source is not a Chiesa fan.
Okay, so that isn't the inside scoop. That is a personal opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay.
No juicy things to be said here.
Well, when you said that's what your source said, it made me hopeful. But no, that was a personal opinion. For folks who listen to the scoop or don't, we as much as we have personal opinions about all these players and things, generally what we try to do here is just give you sort of more the objective fact of the matter behind these players, less our opinion about them. Argon Fit says Maldini, and Maldini is a name that has popped up as a rumor linked to Juventus as a vice Yildiz. Frederic, what are you hearing about Daniel Maldini?
There was a bit of interest, but that pretty much evaporated very, very quickly. I don't know as to why or what made the deal not happen or made it not develop as much as the media tries to make us believe, but it didn't develop at all. So I think we asked for some info on him or whatever you could call it, but I think we left it at that. I don't know if it was from our side or his side or whatever, but for now, there's nothing to be concerned over, so to speak.
Yeah, he's a backup at Atalanta.
Yeah,
And Argon Fit, you describe him as a prospect, but he's 24 years old. Young, yes, but that is that's a stretch to call them a prospect, in my opinion, considering the
yeah,
age. So
and
yeah, that's not
I,
one
I
to give an opinion. That's not one I particularly liked in terms of
no, and I think that Juventus, the priority right now is either we sign people that are ready and prove themselves and can help the team immediately, or we sign players that can be of a huge impact in the future and can develop under Spalletti. At 24, still not having your starting 11 spot at Atalanta, I don't know if you're Juve material then. And then, of course, it remains to be seen what Atalanta's asking price is as well, which is
Mhm.
always something to look forward to after our past endeavors with Atalanta. So I think no, there's for now there's not a lot there. Let's put it that way.
Scrolling down,
Oh, we have a personal question. I see.
we have a personal question. Well,
Yeah.
I saw the next one that I wanted to, and I lost. I think my it was about, and I forget the individual who asked it, but the question was about to Celta Vigo selling Chiesa. Is they're really in the mix for European spots? I mean, they're tied on points. They're seventh, but they're tied on points with sixth. And when I was making my joke of what's 50% of zero, it there's a lot more money for them to be in Europe than to miss. And if Mingueza helps them get Europe, then and that makes sense, for them to kind of hold firm, let them go on a free to get the added financial boost from making Europe. Frederic, to what extent does their position in the table, are you hearing that their position on the table is affecting negotiations?
No, but I think if you look at the Celta team, they're a pretty mediocre team in terms of individual quality. And he's one of those players that, makes the team better because of not just its defensive work, because I think defensively he's a bit sloppy, but attackingly he's very, in forward play is one of his strong attributes. He scores quite some goals as a terzino, a lot of assists as well, and you can put him in any position on the field. And I think that makes him a key player to this Celta de Vigo. So it's not like it's a reserve player or somebody who's been pushed out of the squad. No, he's a really important player to them. So I think it affects it, and it makes their negotiation strategy a lot more solidified in that respect.
So we get into our list of folks. Everybody, it seems, that responded to McKennie, Azaru, Smith, Ivan, Mikkel, Heptanol, all say renew him. But several folks have noted that we cannot give him the amount he's asking for. I think what the amount he's asking for would make him the fourth highest paid player on the team, maybe third behind Dušan's contract and David's contract, both of which are quite large. And I think go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that, and there was another question that's a bit intertwined with the question from DR1S. Thank you for the compliment. He said my knowledge about Juve is impressive, and if I was
that's just
former
lip
player,
that's just lip service.
No. But
Just,
no. I just wanted to state that I played in second division, and there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in that respect. But And that's the thing with McKennie. If you, as management, renew contracts and give players bigger salaries, then the day after, you'll have 5, 6 managers knocking at your door, demanding the same for your player, or players in the dressing room feeling a bit left out, underappreciated, those things. So it's not just the financial thing of it all, it's also how does this affect the dressing room vibe and how will this affect future negotiations for other players? Because imagine if you're Kenan Yildiz, your contract still hasn't been rediscussed. And you come in the dressing room and you see McKennie opening a bottle of champagne because he got 6.5 million. I mean, it's a whole shift of balances in the dressing room that's happening after that. So I think it's logical that you sit down with a player, and it's not illogical that you don't bite with the first offer that you get or they throw at you. So it's a delicate negotiation in that respect. And I praise Comoli for not being head over heels saying, "Oh no, Spalletti wants him. Spalletti's doing well. McKennie's doing very well. Yeah, let's give him the 6.5 million." Because I'm fairly sure that a guy like Juntali would have done that, but it has other side effects. So being a bit more rational and level-headed is, I think, what we need at the moment. And I'm not trying to bash on McKennie, but these are things that happen, and those contract extensions are talked about in the dressing room and have an effect.
I mean, I've said it before. If I'm in that dressing room and I see the wages Vlahovic is on and the production that he's provided this team for his wages and his transfer fee, and it would blow my mind. It would absolutely blow my mind. It blows my mind. It blows my mind from Houston, Texas.
Yeah,
Not even from
and he wants a 4-year contract. Let's not forget.
McKennie.
A 4-year contract for McKennie at his demands right now. That's 13 million gross a year without bonuses. So we're talking a potential 15 million a year times 4. That's a lot of money.
Well, I mean,
That's a lot of
he's
money.
27. A 4 or 5 year contract for his age is appropriate. You're just talking about what that annual cost is going to be. And keep in mind that his transfer fee, which wasn't very large anyways, but his transfer fee is no longer assessed against his wages on our books. That's amortized out at this point. So there is I mean, when you look at the cost of McKennie, even if you do give him this raise, it's still, even if you gave him the 6.5 net, he's less than Coop because Coop's got his transfer fees accounted for us in the books.
Yeah,
so like when you think about it, like taking the devil's advocate, renewing McKennie is really like a free transfer. There's no amortization of a transfer fee to assess. That is how the book goes: amortization of transfer fee plus wages. He doesn't have that first bit.
No, but you still need to fork out probably an incentive to his manager as well.
I understand.
Because that's the way the cookie crumbles the last couple of years in football. But we'll see. We'll see where it leads out. We have a question from Colo, I see.
Oh, we do? We haven't got down there yet. Destiny. Colo wants to ask Frederic how he rates the young 16-year-old Juventus next-gen prospect, Destiny. And I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name, which is why I'm using his first one.
Elimogale.
Elimogale? Okay.
Yeah.
So for folks who maybe not be tapped into the youth sphere of Juventus, Destiny is like one of the, if not the first name that people talk about when they look at the promising prospects of Juventus next gen. And so I think a lot of us wonder, right? You could see clips, and Colo is the master of making any player look like a god with his fantastically done YouTube videos.
True.
Follow 99 Colo on YouTube. But from a characteristic standpoint, Frederic, how do you rate Destiny and keep within the context of 99.9% of players at his age don't pan out? Right. I mean, what is his characteristics, and what do you think the future is for him?
I think he's destined to become a great player. I'm sorry about the pun. No, I think he has all the makings of being a top player. I'd rate him, not the same level as Kenan, but the potential is there. However, I think it's too soon for him. He's been praised a lot, kept under the loop a lot. I don't feel that he's ready right now. I think he needs to mature a bit, at least another year, because I saw him play, and there are times that he amazes me, that you think, wow, this guy's only 16 years old and look what he can do. But there are also times that he really disappoints, that he doesn't, make that much of a difference. So there's this level of inconsistency, which will get better with maturity. But for now, I'd say, leave him out of the limelight, let him develop. We'll see where it goes. Surely he'll become a good player, but if he's going to be Juventus material, and on par with the likes of Kenan or whatever, that's yet to be seen. At 16 years old, it's very, very difficult, to predict anything. But he has all the makings of somebody who can potentially be very, very good. Yes.
Yeah, I think he turned 17
Uh,
before next season, sometime in the spring
yeah,
or early summer.
yeah.
And so it's like, for me, when you look at a player who has the ability to make a jump like Yildiz did, from that 17 to 18 year, you really hope to see a giant stride being made to determine whether he needs one more year at next gen or whether he could maybe handle a loan. So this next year, I think, is really the year to pay attention to him. Leave him be for now. But otherwise agree with your assessment, Frederic. Okay, let's scrolling back up because I lost my spot in the questions. Antonio, good to see you. Any Chiesa updates? Do you think Maldini is coming instead? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to rewind this episode. We spoke about both earlier this episode. There was a couple other questions before I get up to the Kessie one, I believe. Mikhail asked about Mingueza. We talked about it. I guess we can talk about. Let's give our opinion on that, Frederic. Do you think Mingueza makes us better? Is that a deal? We rated it red hot. Is that a deal that you're excited about, or are you sort of more hesitant, or do you hate it?
No, I'm excited because cost effective. It's a very good deal if they agree with our offer being somewhere between the lines of 5 and 6 million. To take him now, and he has a lot of potential. And for me, he's a classic kind of Dani Alves player, not in terms of quality, but in terms of the way Dani Alves plays. And for me, Dani Alves always made us better. And I like these terzini that go up and down the pitch and provide assists as well. And that's something Spalletti also likes. And I think, seeing who we have on the left and the right now, especially for Kalulu, I mean, let the guy rest a bit. I mean, and this season, we're in luck with Kalulu. He stays fit. He doesn't have any injuries or suspensions. But if
Knock
next
on
season
wood.
something, yeah, I'm doing it right now. But if next season something should happen or whatever, then you've pretty much punched a hole in your squad. So I think we need a replacement in that position. And I think, given the cost and given his experience already and what he can bring to Juventus, I think it'd be a fairly good deal on paper, because you never know. I also thought Koopmeiners was a good deal in terms of ability and what he could bring to Juventus, and
No,
we see
that's
where
not the
that
same
went.
though. That's not the same though. It's because when we talked in the summer in our scoop review of and should any players come in the winter, we will do our scoop review for them. But when we did a scoop review of, say, like Jagrova or Jean Mario,
Hmm.
and Mikel kind of is like, hey, is Mingueza going to be a good deal, or is it the new Jean Mario? A big component of a player's expectations is their cost. Koopmeiners, yes,
Hmm.
we expected Koopmeiners to be, Europa League winning MVP caliber midfielder, but we paid
Hmm.
60 million euro for him. If we get
Hmm.
Mingueza in for 4 or 5 million euro, that amortizes on against our books 950,000 euros. The
Hmm.
expectations and the flexibility, if he is a bust, is different than your fifth highest paid player who also cost you 60 million euros.
Yep,
So
true.
I think that is something to keep in mind about the deal, and also noting for everybody sort of the different strategy that Comolli's taking, perhaps because of his own strategies or tactics, or by virtue of our financial situation. But as to a comparison, with that out of the way, as to the comparison, Mikkel asking about good deal or a new João Mario, I think one thing is unequivocal, because I won't make statements as to whether I think it'll be he'll pan out better. He is a better defender than João Mario, so yeah, definitely a fullback. I know he's maybe played a couple games at center back position. At fullback, better defender than João Mario, with the same type of attacking proclivities. So from just on paper standpoint, he's more versatile for a team, especially playing a 4-man back, than João Mario is.
Yes, very true.
I found where I was in the list. Kessie, we had talked about Kessie a while ago at this point. Anything new you hear about him joining Juventus?
No, his wage expectations are too high.
Next on the list, Odzic. Mohammed wants to ask about Odzic. We had said, I think, on one of our previous episodes that you anticipated that Odzic loan is likely to happen, but we'll probably be waiting to the end of the month. Is that your assessment still?
Yeah, and difficult in the sense that Odzic has to agree, Juventus has to agree, and the other team has to agree. Now, the other team, whoever that may be, I think Parma is really pushing for him. For them, it's always a win, but it has to be something that satisfies Juventus as well, because they don't want to send Odzic out to sit on the bench. If they send Odzic out on loan, they want Odzic to play.
Yeah.
And I think therein lies the difficulty a bit, especially because Parma has a packed midfield already. So I'm not too sure, but that's something that's currently in development. I'll keep you posted. I'm sorry if I seem distracted, but I'm texting my source about some things that I'll maybe get to tell you guys when we run through the questions.
Speaking of João Mario, Randy wants to know if there's any interest in his services.
No. There is not a single offer that came in for João Mario at this point, sadly.
All right. Jimbo says you're looking a lot better, Frederic, for those who joined late. My man's plague may be behind him.
Yeah. Let's not be overly excited yet. Who knows? It's maybe just some sort of anti-dip, but I'm feeling better. Thank you for noticing.
Azuru had the same question about João Mario. Jimbo says never apologize for puns, Frederic.
Yes. Yes.
Antonio also asked about Coop. Again, Antonio, I apologize. Please rewind. We did mention him. He was on our list of players that we talked about. Jimbo asked him, Mengesa cross a good ball? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Sorry, I'm going down the list. Okay.
There is one.
I think I caught up.
You missed.
I missed somebody.
You missed. Allianz FC 2020.
Oh my gosh. Alliance. I am so sorry. Mateta from Crystal Palace. Is that a name on your radar? Has that been tossed around by your source at all, Frederic?
It makes sense because I text my source with any new updates, and I'm going to be very specific. And he replied, I think it was late afternoon, with an emoji of a baguette. And I wasn't too sure, and I responded, "Are you having lunch?" and then another emoji. But he didn't reply to that question anymore. So now I texted him while I saw the name popping up. And I asked him, was that what you were referring to? Can you give me some info? And he just said it's typical Comolli name, and very intertwined with Comolli's world, or my translation is a bit rough, but basically confirmed that there's interest. And now I just texted him asking him, is it a summer transfer? Is it a winter transfer? And he said,
okay, Gar, finish. Sorry, I apologize.
or a potential transfer. And he said, we're doing everything we can, whatever that means.
So, I mean, I think you can infer, though, that's a player very much on the list. Jean-Philippe Mateta, forward for Palace. His contract expires next year. So a January signing seems unlikely considering the time on his contract and the financial constraints that we have. So that is a name. If that is, if your source, if we infer correctly from your source that that's one that the team is tossing around, we'll keep you up to date for the summer. And the summer striker position is very curious because it looks likely that whether you like it or not, Openda's buy clause will be triggered. I'm not particularly a fan of that. Considering how expensive it is, and he would immediately come in and as our fifth highest paid player.
Wait.
Okay, here we go. All right, wait. Can I play the drop that you hate, Frederick?
Yeah, play the drop.
Okay.
Let me light up a cigarette because the drop gives me stress.
You say it like you haven't been like what this one. You're on like your 50th. Okay.
And now Freddie Scoops with the scoop. He's the best in the business, see? Yeah.
All right, hit us.
It's not set in stone that Openda's renewal will be automatic because I saw a lot of people. I did some research. Oh, but if we don't go to Serie B, then the buy clause is automatically triggered. But there are a lot of clauses in his contract, and I'm not sure if, because I asked, but I'm not sure if we might stand a chance to dodge a bullet if things don't work out.
No, well, so here, look, I never do this because I generally respect your relationship with your source, but this I think you should dig into. What is the actual buy clause situation? Because I feel like most people, yourself included, have been referring to it as largely a foregone conclusion that he will be joining us, especially after Vlahovic's injury, because of the game time he inevitably would and will be getting. Let's like we've reported about Nico and Douglas Luiz, dig into that for us so that we can get some specifics as to what that looks like.
Well, it's obviously also linked with number of presences. Because
of course, where do we finish in the table? How many appearances? Is the appearance based on number of appearances versus time? I mean, there's a lot of who said in the chat? Azaru, Azaru. I think tongue in cheek says I expect a lot of clauses in his contract. That's normally how contracts are. Lots and lots of clauses. But what those exactly are would give us an insight as to the likelihood of that being triggered. He hasn't had a ton of appearances, and we're at the midway point, right?
No, and I know for a fact that there is somewhere this penalty clause where we can say, okay, we don't want to buy him, but we are obliged to pay a penalty then. But I asked because I spoke, I think it was on Bepe's show that I spoke about that. I can't remember anyway, but I asked some questions about that, and the good thing about that penalty is that it's going to be payable in a number of years, so it won't weigh that much on our books. If the penalty were to be, I'm just going to say something, it's not truth in there, but if it's 15 million but you can pay in 3 years, that mean that you had to fork out 5 million a year in order to avoid a 45 million euro and the salary of a player that's not working out on your team. So for me, that makes sense. So
yeah. We'll the Openda situation is one that we'll be talking about beyond January, and not just because any personal opinions as to his fit on the team, but simply because it's an expensive transfer that could very well affect future transfer activity and flexibility of this team. For instance, if we're going to get in if say Douglas Luiz's clause isn't executed, he comes back. Nico Gonzalez and Timothy Weah give you 45 million euro, but we then need to pay Leipzig 45 million euro to Openda. All of that flexibility that Comolli put into our wage structure and everything by virtue of those buy clauses disappears if Douglas Luiz comes back in Openda and we have to buy him. That sucks, from a financial flexibility standpoint. So it's definitely something that we will be talking about more. Colo asks a question that I almost stumbled upon. Say, what's more expensive for us if Openda stays or Douglas Luiz comes back? Well, on the upfront, it's definitely Openda considering the buy clause, but Douglas Luiz, if he becomes the next Artur is on our books forever, then that could weigh us down over time. It might Frederic, I guess, it might get traded. Do you, if Douglas Luiz comes back, Frederic, I guess the question building off of what Dan has asked is any resellability of Douglas Luiz blown if he comes back? Like, is he done? If he can't get 6 more 45-minute appearances, is his career done?
He needs 5, by the way. Because I did some digging. Also, FA Cup and other matches count. So it's not just because there was a lot of confusion. Is it only Premier League matches and whatever? No, every official game for his team that he plays more than 45 minutes. So if he plays 45, it doesn't count. If he plays 46, it counts. So let me be very specific on that. It's 45 minimum, and even 45 and 1 second, then that counts. So, but I don't know. You'd have to ask Spalletti. I don't think that he'll be anywhere near the player that he was. He's getting a bit more better in terms of his physicality.
He drives me absolutely nuts, Frederic, because when we signed to Artur, I got to be honest, I didn't really see the player that everyone was hyping up to be this next great midfielder. Douglas Luiz showed on the pitch in the EPL that he can be a stud. He also was, let's be real, in every single comment, every single video we make, somebody asks, can we get a freaking free kick taker? Can we get a penalty kick taker? Dude takes the penalty kicks, dude takes the free kicks, takes the corner kicks, and he does them well. And we talked about this when we were talking Spalletti, is I do believe a healthy 2 years ago Douglas Luiz would be an absolute baller in Spalletti's system, which makes it so frustrating because sometimes the cookie crumbles in a way that we don't like, and it just would be so sad to see that happen to a player that had quality.
I think if there's a coach that is capable of reviving him, I think that's Spalletti, in all fairness, because it's the type of midfielder Spalletti adores. Let's be real. And Spalletti is known, and he's proven that he can bring the best out of players. So I wouldn't be that, I wouldn't fall into despair should he come back. However, I feel that management is counting on those millions that we need in order to get some deals done, like Mateta, who's obviously gonna be the new Vlahovic in terms of his on-field performance, and Spalletti made it very clear. If there's a new striker to be had, he wants somebody who's big, who's physical, who's able to put the ball in and keep the ball up front. And I think Mateta answers to those or ticks those boxes. But for Douglas Luiz, I don't think Openda's got it in him to leave a mark at Juventus. Douglas Luiz had a chance. He kind of squandered that too. So it's a difficult decision. But I'm curious to see how Comolli will handle it, because life's not a pony camp, especially not at Juventus this day and age. So he has his work cut out for him with all these things that are about to trigger, not trigger. But another nice thing I just heard is that our good friend Douglas Costa is returning to Italy and is probably going to play for Chievo Verona in Serie D.
Well, look, speaking of an off-injured player, he would fit the bill. The best case scenario for Juventus. I mean, Openda had a really good game against Roma, but he hasn't really done much. Considering how teams play, I did not like the transfer, certainly for the amount. I mean, he's our sixth highest paid player on the team. The purchase price is north of or above 40 million euro.
Yep.
And Douglas Luiz coming back and Openda staying would be an absolute disaster financially, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
So that's sort of a roundabout discussion, maybe not directly answering Dan Colo's question, but that's kind of our take on it.
Yep.
And
well, we're sitting probably leaving. Sorry.
Yes. So I mean, we've talked about that already. The likely, I think on the last episode we talked about Artur. He's at Gremio, right? I believe, who want to buy him, and Caio Jorge, who likely will be moving during this Brazilian off season, to the tune of 20 to 30, maybe more million, and we have a 30%. I mean, yeah, just like Celta Vigo wants that Mingueza amount to be as high as possible because because Barcelona's going like this too. We're doing the same thing as the Caio Jorge because we got a 30% interest in his sale. Mohammed says 40 million from Flamengo. Yeah, whatever that number is, we want it to be as high as possible, folks. If for instance, if we can sell Caio Jorge for 40, we pocket 12. The way amortization works, we would instantly be able to buy a guy like Mingueza, whether you like it or not. We could instantly probably bring in a Chiesa. You know, the flexibility we would have with just like 10 or 12 million euro could be huge for bringing in a player this January. And I know Frederic is not letting me dream of a Scudetto. He won't let me do it. But for those willing, you know, maybe a player or two this January could be the difference, as we only sit, you know, a few points behind at this midpoint. Alrighty, I think we can. We last question from Azu, and then we're going to call it, folks. I really appreciate all of the really good attendance, the really good discussion, and the contribution from every you in chat. Obviously, a lot of our returning folks like Mikkel and Thomas, Mohammed, Azaru, Yorio, as well as some new folks. And apologies if I don't recognize your name from before, but it's great to see new people in our chat. If you like this type of programming, we have a lot of different programming at Turn Giants. From our Scoop transfer news to our debate black and white series to our post game coverage to the new episode series that just debuted yesterday. Farhad called After Hours. Go check it out, please. If you haven't, subscribe and stay tuned in with all of the stuff that we're bringing to your home. Last question, and yes, Carlos 6 is correct. We're becoming a network. Yeah, that's kind of the dream. That's kind of the vision. We'll see what happens. We're sort of, you know, as a bunch of, we could rename it just a bunch of working dads, because that's who we are, is where we do this in our free time. And we're trying to sort of spread the love because we don't have endless amounts of free time juggling, you know, being a father, being a husband, being a working parent as well. We're just doing the best we can. Last question. Who would you rather sign from Azaru, Tonali or Bernardo Silva? Forget the money. He put money in there. I say forget the money.
Bernardo Silva all day, every day. Bernardo Silva's, for me, 2-3 levels above Tonali. Easily.
What if Tonali voids his contract and he says, Juve, I'll play with you, minimum contract. Bernardo Silva, obviously, we'd get on a free. You still taking Bernardo Silva?
Yes. I think Bernardo Silva has so much quality, so much experience, so much leadership that, you know, he instantly boosts your midfield, or the current midfield that we have, with easily 50%. You're twice as strong in midfield with just the addition of a Bernardo Silva. With Tonali, it's, don't get me wrong, Tonali is a good player, but the kind of imprint that he leaves on games is at times very high, at times very low, at times just meh. I think if you want to make that next step forward, you need to bring in the top level players, especially in midfield. And for me, Bernardo Silva is undoubtedly one of the best current performing midfielders in the world.
When you look at our team, that's not in dispute that we are flawed. And so there's a lot of help that we need. Bringing both players in would make us a better team. I think we can agree on that, right, Frederic?
Yeah. But it's not feasible.
Well, no. But I'm making a point here. The issue that we have, one of the big issues we have, because we've gotten several, is the ability for there to be offensive, centrally focused creativity on our team. From a midfield standpoint, what we've seen lately is long balls from we've seen for the last year and a half long balls from Locatelli to bypass the midfield and folks into space. And lately, what we've seen is our creative midfielder being Jonathan David, where he drops in and you see overlapping runs from McKennie and Moretti. It's worked, but it's not really a creative midfielder. You're using sort of a false nine who often is a creative midfielder, right? If we had somebody genuinely creative in that role, I think it would unlock a forward like Openda, for instance, if he has to stay, as well as a guy like Yildiz. So when you look at the addition of a guy like Mingueza, by the way, is far and away second in Celta Vigo in through balls. In fact, if he was on our team, I think he'd be second on our team in through balls done this year. Bernardo Silva, world recognized creative attacking midfield threat who has tactical flexibility as well in terms of where he can play on the pitch. To go back to Frederic's point about being a vice Yildiz. With that in mind, I would take Bernardo Silva over Tonali. That is my long answer, Frederic, to the question.
Yeah, it's a very good answer. I do know for a fact that Ottolini is in good standing with Tonali's agent, and they have contact. But in between having contact and being interested and actually sign a player, there's a lot of work in between. I think that Juventus or Comoli's objective now is to bring in qualitative players, not only by name like a Bernardo Silva, but only players that can make a certain impact and a certain difference. Because if we're being honest, we bought Koopmeiners, but we didn't have a role cut out for him the way he had at Atalanta. And I think that's part of the reason why he is flopping as well. We bought Thuram. We haven't paid a lot for him because he was somebody who was a diamond in the rough, and granted, he does his job, but he wasn't really needed in the team. So now you see these holes in the team that need to be filled, and it's Comoli's and Ottolini's job to fill them with quality players. And if you could sign both Tonali and Bernardo Silva, that would be a big statement by Juventus. That would be a really big statement.
It would be, but Tonali also, and this brings the money into it. So I said, ignoring the money, who would you bring in if you could only bring in one? But bringing the money into it, the amount of money you would have to pay to bring in Tonali just makes it seem like a not Comoli style transfer. I mean, Comoli wants to bring guys in who will increase the value here and grow. The people where you can buy them for cheaper than what their value is to him. And for Tonali, you're going to be paying top dollar for a very good midfielder, no question. But that doesn't strike me as the type of deal that Comoli will make. I think it was somebody very early on, Azaru actually, at the very beginning of this podcast said, let's see that money ball in action, referring to sort of that baseball terminology in the movie of the same name, because that's what Comoli's all about, using data to find a player that punches above their weight in terms of production relative to their cost. So I don't see Tonali coming. I think we said this on Bepe's podcast that he keeps rearing his head in the news to Juventus, but the money doesn't make sense to me. Like, it literally makes no sense from a financial standpoint.
Granted, it's easy clickbait as well, because you're as an Italian team, you need a midfielder. You have an Italian midfielder who's performing decently. So it's easy to link those two, but in my opinion, you're better off with a Silva. I mean, the things that he can do, and I've seen Silva play for a lot of years now. I've seen him play at Monaco, I think, at Benfica. He's a monster. He's a monster. I can't put it in any other words. He's a sure shot. He'll play his game everywhere.
If he stays healthy, obviously getting up there in age. Well, I think the really important thing, and we'll end here, is we don't do clickbait here at The Scoop. We do the best we can with the relationships that Frederic has cultivated within Juventus to give you the truth as it's articulated to us for what is happening behind the scenes. Please, if you have any players or questions with regards to transfers and rumors, and you can't wait for the next episode of The Scoop and you want to hear from us, reach out to Turn Giants on Instagram. Reach out directly to Frederic at The Scoop Juve on Instagram. And stay tuned to the absolute crazy host of episodes and shows that we have coming up for you. Like I said, tomorrow will be a double release, a black and white. It's Black and White, our debate series, and Beppe. We have the post game coming Saturday. We've got the post game midweek Champions League, and then we'll try to do some cool coverage while Kevin, Frederic, Beppe, and I are in Turin as well. So with that, and stay tuned. Scoop shirts released. Check out Farhad's show from yesterday. After Hours. Sorry, the name escaped me. And until next time. Well, I should wait. First off, I gotta say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Frederic. I almost signed off. Thank you, Frederic. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Y'all are awesome. I keep saying it, and I really mean it. Doing these, the Scoop started as a offline 25-minute get in, get out program, and we did one just on a whim live. And Frederic and I talked afterwards. I'm like, this is a lot of fun. Everyone was really cool. Let's do it again. And so now the Scoop has turned into an exclusively live program to see guys like Bogdan. I know he joined late. Hello. And the rest of everybody who we've shouted out throughout.
Yeah, amazing.
Y'all are a lot of fun, genuinely. And we do it for you. So we'll see you again, whether it's on Bepe's show or ours. We appreciate each and every one of you and the time you spend with us. We know time is valuable, so thank you. And now I can say, until we speak again, everybody, Frederic, as always, Forza Juve.